What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series where you can get maximum truth with minimum bullshit mixed in. I'm Darkside Phil, and today we're going to be talking about a game that I feel a lot of people have been asking me to review, and I've been a little bit reserved in doing a review because I wanted to be sure that I had played the online play of this game before I had reviewed it. I wanted to give it a fair shake, and this is a game that is highly anticipated, one of my most anticipated games of 2012. Ended a trilogy of games that a lot of people are saying are some of the modern epic sci-fi RPG. It's something that kind of redefined the genre for a lot of people because of the scope, because of the amazing detail in the worlds, the amount of culture and just all kinds of stuff that's happened around this game. And since this game series has come out, you now have novels that are spin-offs, you have comic book series, you have all kinds of merchandising, and it really is one of the most popular series in gaming today. Of course, what we are talking about is the ending of the epic trilogy, Mass Effect 3. Okay? Now, I'm going to be talking about this game, and I'm going to be completely honest. If you did not play Mass Effect 1 or 2, okay, I really feel that Mass Effect 3 is the kind of game that you're not going to really get. You're not going to get the full experience of Mass Effect 3 until you've played the previous two games, simply because it is a continuous storyline between all three games, and the decisions that you've made in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 actually directly affect what happens in Mass Effect 3. And so if you haven't had that experience of playing those previous games, you're really going to feel like you're jumping in at the end of a story, and you're going to feel left out. In fact, there are many major plot lines in Mass Effect 3 that I won't spoil in this review, but they directly follow the events of things that have happened in games 1 and 2, and if you didn't play them, you're really going to be like at a loss. Like, what the hell is the genophage? Who are the Rachni? What is this? What is that? And you're going to end up running either to Wikipedia or watching someone's playthrough to try to figure out what the hell's going on in this game. Okay? That being said, I think it did a really good job of closing out the trilogy. And what we're going to do in this review is we're going to talk about what I feel the game did really well, what I feel the game did kind of poorly. We're also going to discuss a little bit of controversy surrounding the game in general, especially regarding a DLC. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the ending, even though I will not spoil the ending of the game. We will talk about why there's some controversy surrounding that, and then what I really think overall of this game. Okay? So, Mass Effect 3, at its core, is exactly what you would expect. It's extremely similar to Mass Effect 2. The combat system is 90% exactly the same as Mass Effect 2. The only difference being that, number one, they've upped your melee attack. And you now have the ability, instead of just running up and going, with your elbow, which used to be the melee attack, now you could do a really powerful charged up swing with your Omnitool, and it does a lot of damage, okay? So, basically your melee attacks have been buffed, so they're actually useful. The only other change, primarily, is that if you have the Microsoft Kinect, you can actually use the Kinect to command the combat of this game. So you can order your particular hero. You can say, Liara, Singularity, and Liara will look, she'll come out from cover, she'll cast her Singularity ability, and she'll go back into cover. Or, similarly, you can say, Assault Rifle, and your character will pull out his Assault Rifle. You can say different things. It also is implemented in the dialogue of the game. Just like the previous Mass Effects, even though there's a lot of combat, there's going to be a lot of dialogue segments, and since this is closing out the trilogy, expect there to be a ridiculous amount of dialogue, to the point where a lot of it is just optional missions that you can skip, but if you really suck it in and take it all in, it's really enjoyable and adds to the overall experience of the game. So, during these dialogue segments, you can actually also say what you want to say during one of the times when you have maybe a choice of two things to say. You audibly say it to your Kinect will pick up that you're saying it, and then Shepard will proceed to go ahead and say that on screen. So really the Kinect only has two functions in this game. So verbal commands in combat and verbal commands during speech. Does it add anything to the game? Absolutely not. And in fact, a lot of the times what I found was during combat, I would be saying absolutely nothing, and the Kinect would think that I was saying something due to a loud sound effect or something going on, and my characters would go out and start attacking, just wasting their powers willy-nilly when I never told them to the point where I said, enough of this, the voice recognition just isn't that good, and I turned off my Kinect after playing with it for a day. So, you want my honest opinion? Not only does the Kinect not aid this, but it actually hinders the experience, and no one should play this game with the Kinect. Don't worry if you didn't buy this game for the Xbox 360, you've missed out on nothing. It's a stupid gimmick to try to sell the Kinect, and it falls flat on its face. So don't worry about that. So outside of the Kinect, the game primarily plays just like Mass Effect 2. You're going to have an arcing storyline where you're going to run into some characters from previous games, some new characters who will join your party. You'll eventually do missions for them and recruit them. Then you will go about the universe accomplishing different goals. And so the main plot of this game is pretty interesting. It actually, unlike the plot of Mass Effect 2 that kind of seemed like almost superfluous, like why am I doing this? This kind of really has nothing to do with the ominous threat of the Reapers coming to invade. I don't understand why we're fighting the Collectors for the whole game. Well, Mass Effect 3 completely flips that. Everything you're doing is directly aligned with the goal of defeating the Reapers. Basically, the plot of Mass Effect 3 is you need to go around the universe and become a military recruiter. You need to take all of these different races and alien civilizations that have been warring with each other for centuries, and you need to make them friendly so that they'll all team up and fight the Reapers together. Because unless everyone teams up in a singular movement, there's no way you're going to fight this Reaper invasion that's taking over the universe. So your job is to try to attempt to fix some of the things that have splintered between these races. For example, remember that whole genophage thing? Yeah, you know that disease that made the entire Krogan race sterile and they can't reproduce anymore? You're going to try to undo that. There's also going to be some galactic threats that kind of show up right in the middle of your quest. Some returning enemies. I don't want to spoil, but there are a lot of returning enemies and things that maybe you didn't expect were going to be in the game. There were actually a couple characters that you get to be in your party that maybe you wouldn't have expected, and so I don't want to spoil that. In fact, when I actually did the unboxing video, I didn't even look at the art book because it would have spoiled 1 to 2 major characters who were in this game that I didn't expect were going to be in it. So pretty cool, pretty interesting. And it's typical Mass Effect fare. You're going to be going on a big galaxy map. You're going to have missions throughout the universe, and you're going to be getting emails during the game on your ship where you can read the email, get the mission. It'll show up on your map now, and you fly there in your ship, and you go to the planet, and you do the mission, whatever. You go back to your ship. You are going to find better weapons, better armor. You're going to be able to buy these things during the course of the game as well. So you'll find them on missions. You'll also buy them in stores. The Citadel obviously makes a return, and for the 3rd game in a row it looks completely different, which is kind of funny. Every single game you go to the Citadel it looks completely different, and this time there's no explanation because the Citadel didn't get destroyed in Mass Effect 2, so why it looks different in Mass Effect 3 is beyond any kind of explanation, which I thought was pretty damn funny. And just like in Mass Effect 1 and 2, a copious amount of side content and side missions, and they're divided primarily into 3 different things. The first kind of side mission is a story-based side mission that expands upon the story and also gives side content regarding characters from previous Mass Effect. So everyone who you still have alive after Mass Effect 2 has a chance to show up in Mass Effect 3, either in the main storyline or a side story. So there are going to be very interesting side stories regarding people like Jacob, like Miranda. All the characters that you had in Mass Effect 2 will come back in side missions as long as you kept them alive in that game. Now, you don't have to do them. They're completely optional, and they do give you experience. They'll give you some pretty good items and things for doing them. Also, obviously, they add to the story. You get to see the backstory of those characters, and you get achievement points and or trophies for completing these side missions. The second kind of side mission is called the N7 side mission, and what these are is a set of 7 missions that are for the Human Alliance, supposedly, and all they are is your admiral will contact you, you fly out to a planet, and you actually play on a map that is a map that's actually used in the multiplayer of Mass Effect 3. And so it's going to be either, defeat Cerberus troops or kill some indoctrinated monsters or maybe fight the Geth, and you survive, you do these goals, and then, again, you'll get experience, you'll get items, and after you complete all 7 of those missions, you get achievement points or a trophy. The third kind of mission is the most common kind of mission, and it's pretty much the random one spread out throughout the game, where you're going to run into a person, maybe you'll overhear their conversation, and they say, wow, it would be really nice if we had this artifact because it would help us in our research for our culture or something. And so what you'll end up doing is one of 2 things. You'll either go out on a mission and find this artifact somewhere in the mission, or there's a chance where you'll go to their galaxy map, fly to a particular galaxy, and as you're in there, you'll do what's called scanning, which is all you do is when you're flying around these galaxies, you press left trigger, and if there is something detected, whether it's an item for a side mission, maybe it's some gas, because remember, flying around these galaxies uses up your gas, just like in Mass Effect 2, and you have to buy more if you run out. And once you scan, it'll detect things. Once you detect things, you can fly to them, and in particular, you can fly to a planet, and then you have to scan the planet, the same exact scanning methods that were used in Mass Effect 2, where there's a radar, you hold down the button, you scan, and finally you find the item, you shoot a probe to it, and then you get the item. The same thing holds true here in Mass Effect 3. The difference is, it's completely streamlined. You're not forced to be doing this for hours on end to try to mine minerals to get the best weapons in the game. They really streamlined this galactic travel and galactic searching and scanning gameplay, and I think it's one of the best things they improved in the game, is cutting out the tedious, monotonous bullshit of what you had to do in Mass Effect 1 and 2, searching for items and minerals and shit. Here, it's pretty quick, it's pretty easy to do, okay? Now, all of these side missions, also upon completion, will eventually give you more of a military strength so that you're amassing your armies to go fight the Reapers at the end of the game, okay? Now, the goal of the game is to get through the entire story, but also do enough side content so that you've amassed enough troops to at least get an ending of the game. And the way that it works is, the more side missions you do, you'll get a higher military strength number, okay? Once you reach a certain military strength number, and forgive me because I'm not sure what it is, it might be like 2,000 out of 5,000 or whatever, you've reached the minimum point where you can actually go ahead and try to beat the game. Now the thing is, if you go in with the minimum amount of troops, you will get the worst ending of the game. And the game does have multiple endings, and this is going to be one of the controversial things that we're going to talk about, okay? Here's what happened. Unfortunately, when Mass Effect 3 was released, BioWare, even in the strategy guide that BioWare had signed off on, saying this is the official strategy guide, there really was no explanation of how to get the best ending of the game that was clear and concise and made sense. The strategy guide had typos in the names of the things that you needed to get the best ending. Online, BioWare made this cryptic post about it, but didn't specifically explain how to do it. And the bottom line is, to get the best ending of the game that actually has a bonus, like 10-second cutscene, you can't do it the first time you play the game. You have to play a New Game Plus in order to get it. But no one knew this, so everyone's flipping out, everyone's trying to do every single side mission in the game and whatever. And also, keep in mind that Mass Effect 3 has multiplayer, and the multiplayer is pretty much the same as the single-player combat. It's going to be you and 3 other people, and you're going to go to those N7 maps that I talked about that are actually side missions in the regular campaign, and you have to either fight Cerberus, the Geth, or some indoctrinated troops, and there's 10 waves where you have to do this, and then maybe do a couple objectives, like maybe upload data from a console or something on the map during a certain period of time, and judging on how quickly you do it, and if you do it, you get experience points, your guy levels up. You can then use the money and the experience to level up your online character, similar like how you do with your character with Shepard in the game and your party in the game. And then you can buy items and get better items to go back and do even better when you play more multiplayer. And as you do that, there's a rating called Galactic Readiness that starts at 50% if you've never played multiplayer, and actually increases the more that you play multiplayer. And so, basically, you can also use this rating to up your military strength during the single-player campaign. So you could play multiplayer for, say, 5-6 hours, get 100% Galactic Readiness, then jump back into the campaign, get as many troops as you can, and the goal is to get as much as possible to try to get the best ending, okay? Well, this wasn't clear at all on launch day. Massive confusion, no one knew how to get the best ending, leading to a lot of disappointment with people not wondering, gee, did I get the best ending or whatever. Come to find out, almost all of the endings of Mass Effect 3 are perfectly identical, with a few changes here and there. The best ending is pretty good. I actually ended up getting the best ending without that bonus cutscene that you do if you play New Game Plus, because obviously I didn't play New Game Plus. And so I was very pleased with the ending that I got for Mass Effect 3. Now, there's a lot of controversy right now, because a lot of people were upset they didn't like the ending. Here's the thing, and here's what happens at the end of Mass Effect 3, so I can explain this to everyone, and why I think this was perfectly acceptable, okay? The last 2 hours of Mass Effect 3 are pretty much just leading up to the end of the trilogy. And you can tell because you get a chance to speak for the last time with every major character from the trilogy who's still alive. And you get to express, you know, your feelings to them, and you have really heartfelt conversations with each one of them. And so when you're doing this, you understand, okay, this is pretty much the end game. This is my ending. We're talking to these people for the last time. A lot of them, you actually get to find out whether or not after the Reapers are defeated, if they're going to go off and have families or what they're going to do with their lives. They actually talk to you about this. So you pretty much can figure out by the end of the game what's going to happen to these characters. And really, the last 2 hours of the game are the ending of the game, okay? Then there is a final fight, okay, which obviously you expected was going to happen. And then the actual ending of the game is a sequence of events that happens through an extended cutscene. And there's a couple of choices you have to make during the cutscene that can affect the ending. And then finally, you get the ending of the game. And no matter what ending you get, they're almost identical. And there's only a very minor change between them, except for the very last scene, which is less than a minute long. And a lot of people are disappointed, and I can understand why. After a trilogy that you invest so much time in, you know, 6 years of gameplay, you've been playing in this game 5 or 6 years, however long it's been, and you maybe wanted something a little bit more, and I can completely understand that. But for me, I felt that the last several hours of gameplay where you got to talk to all of the characters, you see them in their basically the best that they're ever going to be as people, and you get to have these heartfelt conversations with them at the end of the game. I'll be honest, I teared up a couple times with some of the conversations. That's how, you know, how dear these characters end up being after playing 3 different games with the same people. You finally get to know them so well. You're like, damn, this is it. This is the last hurrah. This is the last time we're ever going to get to talk to these characters. And you actually do feel a little bit sad. But I think that they did it in a really professional manner. I think the ending is really done well. And I don't understand why people really were so mad. I can see why you're a little bit disappointed, but not you're so furious. Oh, this ending sucks. Oh, I can't believe it. And now to the point where now there are rumors that I guess BioWare heard that so many people were disappointed with the endings that they may actually do a DLC later on that will add on a new ending to the game to maybe give a little bit more of a satisfactory closing to the game, to which I say, that's great if they're going to do it, but that is a little bit disappointing because then you feel like you paid your $60, you didn't get the full game. But also, why is BioWare like kowtowing to what these whiny people are saying? Like, I personally, as a massive fan of Mass Effect 3, thought the ending of the game was fine, and I just think that people are whiny in this day and age. They always are going to say there's something wrong, and if it's not so perfect, if it's not exactly what they wanted or exactly what they expected, they're going to whine and complain about it. I think the ending was fine. That's my personal opinion. The only other thing that we need to talk about before I basically score this game is that there is another controversy surrounding it, surrounding a Day 1 DLC. In fact, the DLC was developed alongside the development of the game, so it really didn't need to be a DLC. And what this is a new character and a new set of weapons and a new side mission, okay? And I'm going to be honest with everyone. I'm not going to spoil it, although I'm not going to tell you exactly what happens during the course of the game. I will tell you this. It's a Prothean, okay? Now, Protheans are these enigmatic race of aliens who apparently were destroyed by the Reapers and then became the Collectors in Mass Effect 2, and you never really met one. They were basically ancient and dead, or they were brainwashed in Mass Effect 2, so you never met one. And the only opportunity to ever meet one and talk to them and learn about them is to pay for a DLC in Mass Effect 3. Now, I bought the Collector's Edition, so I paid extra, and I got the DLC on Day 1, and it's funny because it actually it seamlessly integrates this DLC into the campaign of the game to the point where you don't even realize it's DLC. You might think you're playing the regular campaign. And so, it is a little disappointing that there's a Day 1 DLC that adds a character that absolutely everyone who's a fan of the game wants to meet, wants to have on your party. In addition to this, he's one of the best characters, if not the best character in the game in my opinion, having amazingly strong biotic powers, plus having one of the best weapons in the game. In fact, the weapon that he gives you, this assault rifle, is the same as the Collector assault rifle from Mass Effect 2. It's an ongoing laser beam that melts through shields. I fucking upgraded it to the maximum and used it for the entire campaign. It was the best weapon I used. So, a little bit disappointing that you have to pay to get the best character and the best weapon. Like, what the fuck were they thinking there? The question here is, was it BioWare? Was it EA? Who was it that really made this decision to make a shameless cash-in on Day 1? And there is a lot of backlash about it, a lot of people who are furious about it. I agree, it's bullshit. It shouldn't have been done. And it's disappointing that they did this and they're trying to make extra money on a game that's supposed to be a regular retail release for $60. And they say, oh, it's optional, but honestly, no. If you're a fan, it's not optional. If you're a fan, you deserve that content, and you should know about the proteins, and you should know, again, get the best weapon and the best character. It's absolutely ridiculous that you have to pay extra for it. So that is a snafu there, and I think that is kind of fucked up that they did that. But overall, what do I think about Mass Effect 3? Great way to wrap up the story. The story is great, gripping. It really ties up a lot of the loose ends, if not every loose end, from the trilogy of games during the course of the story of this game. And a lot of the things that you were like, gee, I wonder how they're going to wrap that up, or are they just going to forget about it? Well, guess what? They don't. They actually end a lot of the stories. There are a lot of side people who are just side missions in Mass Effect 1 and 2 that actually show up again, and because you helped them in the previous games, just by complete coincidence, they're there to help you out during the campaign of Mass Effect 3, and it really is cool to just see them all show up one last time. So really interesting, really cool that they did that, and I really feel the story excels. The gameplay itself of Mass Effect 3 is almost completely identical to the gameplay of Mass Effect 2. So if you like that gameplay, you're going to love it. If you didn't like that gameplay, you're going to hate it. Now, keep in mind, one new addition for Mass Effect 3 was at the beginning of the game, you have the choice on how you want to play it. You can either play it more like an action-based game, meaning the cutscenes, you're not going to have to choose dialogue options like you used to do. You're not going to have to worry about Paragon or Renegade. All that just plays out like a cutscene for you, and you don't have to do that. It's more action-based. All you really do is control it during the action sequences, the combat. Then, on the flip side of that, there's a mode that simplifies the combat to the point where it's really easy, and it's more about you focusing on the RPG elements. Or then there's the regular mode, which is what I played, which is classic Mass Effect. You get the combination of the combat and the RPG elements. So if there is a portion of this game that you don't enjoy, you can actually choose the mode of the game and skip a lot of it. That's a cool feature. But if you really want the full experience, you really should play the real game, okay, and not nerf parts of the game. But to be honest, the combat is repetitive, and it is pretty much very similar to the other Mass Effect games. They really didn't do much to redefine. I guess they said don't fix what's not broken, but at the same time, it would have been nice if there were some newer things added into it besides just, ooh, a heavy melee attack and yelling at your fucking Kinect to try to get your guys to do stuff. That was kind of silly. I do enjoy the fact that they redid the galactic travel. You don't have to search for minerals and shit for hundreds of hours like you used to, and that was complete bullshit and annoying. It shouldn't have been in the game. It's out of this game. That's a good thing. So that's really great. Some of the downsides, the multiplayer, although it is nice, kind of doesn't really add much to the game. It's just repetitive combat, and it'll be fun to play a couple times as you try to get your galactic readiness up to help you with the campaign. But after you do that, I really doubt there's anyone who's going to continuously be coming back to the multiplayer, especially because there's only like, I think 6 or 7 maps, and they're all the same. You just play 10 waves of enemies, and then you get to your dropship and escape. It's not like there's variety in the gameplay. You're just fighting generic enemies and doing the same shit over and over. So even though it's nice that there is multiplayer in the game, it really doesn't add that much. I kind of feel the same as I did back when the multiplayer was out for Uncharted 2, when I said, it's okay, it's nice that it's there, but it doesn't really add much. In this case, there is no competitive multiplayer, it's all co-op, so it's not even as many game modes as, say, Uncharted 2 had, and I really think that it really wasn't necessary. Well, I don't think it took away from the campaign. So in my opinion, the campaign is outstanding, great story. Only downside is that the combat's kind of repetitive and the same. They really didn't improve much there. The multiplayer is kind of tacked on. It's nice that it's there, so you will get a couple more hours of gameplay, but it's nothing to write home about. It's nothing that's a seller, you know what I mean? It doesn't really add that much to the game. So, overall, what do I think about Mass Effect 3? First of all, I absolutely think you should not play this game unless you've played 1 and 2, because this is the culmination of a trilogy. It's an amazing ending to one of the best gaming stories of all time, in my opinion. Well written. The fact that it ties up all these loose ends, you will not understand half the stuff in this game if you haven't played the previous game. So, if you haven't played the previous game, stay away from this game until you do. If you've played the previous games, you're going to love this fucking game, let's face it. Great ending to the trilogy, sends off the characters very well in the last couple hours of the game. The ending may be disappointing for you, but they may be remedied in the DLC coming up. For me, it was fine because I enjoyed the 2.5 hours of build-up before the final battle, and I really enjoyed the outcome at the end. I thought that was a really cool way to end the series. Of course, I'm not going to spoil it. And there's a little bit something for everyone. Again, if you're a more action-based player, you can turn the game to do that. If you're more RPG-based, you can change the game to be like that, or you could just leave it alone, which is what most people should actually do. The only disappointment for me is, again, the combat. I really felt they should have added something to the combat of this game. And you will get a lot of gameplay out of this, by the way. I played this game, and I tried to do as many side missions as I possibly could, and I think it came out to roughly anywhere between 30 and 34 hours of gameplay. I forget off the top of my head. It was at least 30 hours of gameplay, doing all the major side missions, you know, and then beating the game in a efficient manner. That's how long it took me. So 30 hours of gameplay plus online play for a $60 release. Pretty damn good in this day and age. And again, wrapping up the story of this trilogy in a really satisfactory way for longtime fans. You're going to like this game. But for me, it doesn't ring like greatness. You know what I mean? Like, I really felt that if they'd done something different with the combat, if maybe they'd added a little bit of variety in the game besides just the standard combat and the RPG elements, maybe add something new to the game that, you know, would be like, okay, that's awesome. It's a trilogy, this is the end of the trilogy, and then they added something really cool and new in. That's the thing that really shows that they went the extra mile, and I'm not really sure they did that. I think they really abided by the formula of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and so they just did more of the same, which is great, but for me it didn't like shine super high and say this is one of the best games I've ever played in my life, okay? Alright, so Mass Effect 3, overall, I'm going to rate it an 8.5. I think it's really, really good. And by the way, that's great on my scale. Really good. It's probably undoubtedly going to be one of the best games of this year. Just not a lot of originality when it came to what they did with the game. But being that the game is so good anyway, that the story is so good, they do such a good job with that, that I feel that it really deserves a really great rating. So I give it an 8.5. Okay, so that's it for my review of Mass Effect 3. I know a lot of you have been wondering what I felt about it and about all the controversy surrounding the ending and the DLC. Now, hopefully, you know my thoughts. You know the seriousness of the situation. You can make a decision for yourself whether or not you want to get the game. Hopefully, this review was truthful and informative and didn't have all kinds of bullshit that distracted you, like a lot of the other mainstream places do. And I hope you enjoyed it. So thanks a lot, and I will see you next time for the Hateful Truth video game review series. Thanks.